We are back working on the 68 Superbee. Our pile of AMD autometaldirect parts are getting smaller, so we have floor pans, frame rails, and stuff yet to put on the car, and that's what we're going to do today. We also installed the A-pillar for the door. This was actually rotted out, but this is the new piece already installed. But let's start on the front end. So we removed the fenders and stuff that are mocked up on the Superbee. We are basically going to be cutting the whole front end off of this car, frame rails and all, then lifting it up onto the lift, removing it from the jig, pretty much cutting it along this line, saving this piece. We modified our jig so that way we had the proper lineup holes for the torsion bar cross member as well. You can see just how rusty ours is. We pretty much used every tool imaginable to cut this front clip off. You can see just how rusty it all is. We used saws and a plasma cutter. The plasma cutter was the easiest that we found. Before we moved the driver's side, we almost forgot to remove our body tag. This is super important as it tells us all the codes and options for our car. With a little bit more cutting with the plasma cutter, the front clip was completely separated. At this point, we're going to lift the car off the jig and finish cutting the underside out. I have been told many times you don't necessarily need a jig for this process. You can just do it on the floor with jack stands, but for me, it was going to make it a lot easier, especially since we were worried the car could have been twisted. Next, we're going to line up all the cross members and frame rails onto the jig using these studs on the alignment holes on the new parts. These are the holes you'll see where your K-member bolts into, and you also see these other holes that we use for alignment. After doing this process like this, I almost just want to build an entire car from scratch. Although the frame rails are aligned with those pins, I'm still going to bolt a K-member to it. That way it should line up with the factory K-member position. And now this is ready to be assembled back into the car. We'll just finish cleaning up some of the metal in the car first. And by doing that, we went ahead and did some sandblasting. We did do it in the barn, so it was very, very dirty. This actually will align with these pins so we know everything fits where it's supposed to. The frame rails here will actually line up against these because they're still in the factory position. And then we can do the floor pan. And these parts came in from autometaldirect today. You can see they'll basically be cut off and replaced right there where the original one went. We lowered the body back down onto the chassis jig, and everything lined up with the original mounting locations on these side skirts and areas on the floor, plus all the alignment pins that were already on the chassis jig. After all the measuring was done, we went ahead and tacked in the frame rails. Alright, so we have the front frame rails and cross member tacked into the 68 Superbee. We're going to go ahead and kind of loosely fit everything else onto the car, and then we're going to hang the doors, the fenders, just to make sure that everything lines up like it's supposed to. So with everything on the front of the car mocked up and screwed in place, we're going to test fit the fender next. We have a fender in place. We need to better fit our gaps and things like that. It's partially mounted up. We'll make some minor adjustments to the fender, get it to fit just right, but overall it actually fits pretty good.